Saquon Barkley gets a massive extension from the Philadelphia Eagles, and he has saved the running back position. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the brain, Luke Braun. On today's episode, we're going to take a look at how the Pittsburgh Steelers might lose Justin Fields. Talk about how Davante Adams was released by the Jets, and there may be a mystery team waiting for him, but we'll start with Saquon Barkley and the massive contract news. Before we dive in, though, do want to thank you for making the Locked On NFL podcast your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. But Saquon Barkley got a massive extension a week before free agency, and my guy, the legacy, Louis DiBiase from Locked On Eagles, broke down the big news.
So the Philadelphia Eagles just made Saquon Barkley the highest paid running back in NFL history, agreeing to a 2-year contract extension worth over $41 million, $20 a year annually, over $20 million a year, $36 million guaranteed. What an insane time to be an Eagles fan. A year ago today, you would have said there's never a chance Howie Roseman would ever pay a running back anything that's worth over a 1-year minimum contract, and now he makes a running back the highest paid player at his position ever. But it's a really cool story, and again, it's proof that Howie Roseman's strongest trait is being creative, being open-minded, changing his philosophies, zigging when the rest of the league zags, and this move helped him win a championship, going in on the running back position, the perfect player at the perfect time, won him a title in 2024. The running back position kind of getting revived. What a cool story for Saquon and the position as a whole. This is a big win for running backs out there.
I mean, it's cool from an Eagles standpoint and Saquon Barkley's season, but I think Louis makes the bigger point. The running back position, man, what a revival
it's
here.
So back. Yeah, it is insane to think of 20 mil. Like 3 years ago, that was like what you made as a corner, and people were like, whoa, that's too much for Byron Jones. Like,
right.
It's crazy how far we've come. But part of that too is the cap increasing quite a bit. 20 million is not the same as it was back then, of course. But it's I'm thinking about like a lot of the discourse about Dave Gettleman taking him second overall, running back second overall. How
right.
And I'm thinking, wow, like, you know, the mistake really was not investing more. And I think everyone agrees the Giants regret this deeply now. And there is something to positional value arguments that just goes out the window when a dude's really freaking good at football. Saquon Barkley changes your offense. Pay that man. Yeah, keep him in Philly until he's 45 years old. He should be in their Ring of Honor. He should retire there, and it should be a stain. And Giants fans should hate that man with a burning passion because the Eagles kept him in the building no matter what, forever. I love it for Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the lesson that we can take from this is what makes football so great at the end of the day is positional value became such a big topic, and it's a term that's in the, in the cognoscenti now. It's in the discourse at all times, and I think we have a tendency to go too far towards the data because it makes you feel secure, because it's ironclad. But the reality is the data will never truly be the answer in football. And you could talk about positional value all you want, but a guy like Pete Warner at linebacker, a guy like Kyle Hamilton at safety, a guy like Saquon Barkley.
What a choice for that, but I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just there are certain positions that may not be the ultra valuable positions that we think of, like edge and offensive tackle and wide receiver and cornerback and quarterback. But it just goes to show you that football isn't a game that can be played in a lab or on a computer or by the metrics. Like, there are just certain aspects to the game that break conventional wisdom. And when you have players that are a certain talent level that can impact the game, even if it's not at these premium quote unquote positions, you have to take care of those players. And I also do want to give that credit to Howie Roseman, who, like Louis said, a guy who was known for playing those percentages all the time, and he's never going to take certain positions in the first round or pay certain positions in this and that. Well, you go out there, you release 2 cornerbacks in Darius Slay and James Bradbury, who probably needed to be released at this point in time and save money. And then you go out and give the biggest contract to a running back that we've ever seen. It's like, that wouldn't by the numbers be smart from a roster building perspective, but it's a great thing to do. And it's worth noting, the Eagles pay these guys. And if you're worth it, they're going to give you their money. And that's something that's going to be noticed around the NFL. Players want to go play for the Eagles because if they earn it, they're going to get cash up front. The Eagles give these guys extensions before they're due. They're going to give you more cash.
They do a lot of void year stuff.
Yes. Which is what the players
Eagles
want.
are like, they're like the gold standard for, I think, for like cap finagling.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't really want their, like, I spend a lot of time having this argument about the Vikings because they do it a lot too, with like void years and kicking can down the road and all that stuff. The Eagles once put 10 void years on a contract for a guy that was going to retire 2 years later. Like, they are insane about it, and it means that they can do stuff like this. Nobody else gets bang for their buck the way the Eagles do, not necessarily because they're always right? John Dotson, Jalen Reagor, like, Howie has his things, but it's funny that this is Howie. Howie is such a... He's like the prophet of the analytics people, and he does stuff like this all the time. And those like evaluation successes and just like opportunism successes are always going to supersede your, like, how accurately you stick to the positional value matrix that somebody made because of a scatter plot that had an R squared of 0.25.
Well, that's the point, I guess, ultimately that I'm making, is that football is a game where you can only play by the numbers so much before natural intuition has to kick in. And I think that is an amalgamation for life in a way. You can play it by the numbers and do what quantifiably is the best thing to do. But at the end of the day, you got to have a feel, and you just got to know, and you got to be able to zig when other people zag, and you have to be able to see things ahead. And Howie Roseman exemplifies, yes, use the data and let that guide you and give that the respect that it deserves. But also don't forget that you're a human being with instincts that can kind of see things and feel things and understand things. And I think Howie Roseman right now is a perfect example of being able to use both parts of the brain that fight with each other so much and mend them together to make what is one of the best rosters we've ever seen in modern NFL history.
Game changer. Like, I think about the draft this year, and this is supposed to be such a historic running back class. None of these guys are Saquon. None of these guys do that.
Right.
And I like Ashton Junty, but like not that much, you know?
Right.
So I'm curious to see how all of that plays out. But the other thing too is
I liked Bijan better coming out of college than Ashton Junty. Like, that may sound crazy, but I like Bijan. I like Bijan.
Jahmyr Gibbs was RB1 in that class. All right, go check my receipts. But the
put Bijan Robinson on the freaking Lions, and then let's talk. It's nonsense.
No, that was my draft take. Okay, and the second he landed on the Lions, I was like, oh no.
You're in trouble now.
Yeah. When you win the Super Bowl and you want to, like, you kind of have to run that back. So Saquon Barkley had a ton of negotiating leverage here too. I think a lot of people are going to be real whooped up about this just because it's a running back, because so much discourse has happened.
It's groundbreaking.
And it's breaking ground that had broken before, but got like unbroken. Like this is like something that would have happened to Adrian Peterson in like 2011. And like, I remember when he made like 15 mil in 2015, which maybe by like inflation was like it was like he was like the highest paid Viking on the team.
Yes.
That back then, and everyone kind of understood it was Adrian Peterson. That was the deal.
Right.
And we're still not back to that point, but boy, just proof positive that a running back can be a game changer.
Yeah. Well, we're not back to that point until a running back wins MVP. That's where I'm at, because he was the last one to do it. So that's the way
he might.
Again, the Eagles getting ahead of these things, keeping their cash fluid, doing it a year early instead of a year late. Howie Roseman deserves to be commended. And you talked about the draft class. I wonder how many running backs we're going to see drafted pretty early because the Eagles kind of set the stage for, hey, running backs are more valuable than maybe the discourse said they were over the last few years. But with that being said, more big news in the NFL. Davante Adams released by the New York Jets. Today's episode is brought to you by Chewy. You probably heard of Chewy. They really do have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Whether you're shopping for food, treats, or even pet healthcare, Chewy makes it fast, easy, and affordable with over 100,000 products from all your favorite brands. Chewy has everything your pet needs, from food to treats to toys to beds and grooming. It's not just for dogs and cats. They've got supplies for birds, fish, reptiles, and small pets too. Chewy also makes it easy to manage your pet's health with prescriptions, telehealth vet visits, and even in-person vet clinics rolling nationwide. Auto Ship is a game changer. You can set up automatic deliveries for food, treats, or any essentials. You never run out. You can easily change or cancel at any time. I've used Chewy for my dog's treats, make sure that they're always on time. We never run out. The little boy loves treats. Got to keep him happy. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy too. Right now, you could save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking the link in the description. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping by clicking the link in the description. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. All right, Luke, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. It's crazy time in the NFL now, folks. Free agency is right around the corner. All of your teams are going to be cutting people, restructuring contracts. There's rumors flying around, but we saw another big domino fall on Tuesday. Davante Adams cut by the New York Jets. This was something that was expected. They could maybe trade him, but it was doubtful people were ever going to take on the money. So for me, this is something that was expected. Now Davante Adams hits the open market with his buddy Aaron Rodgers. We're hearing reports and rumors that these two guys want to play together no matter what. Luke, who do you think would be the best team for the combo dog of Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams?
I can't say Raiders. I think
it can't
for
be
Aaron
the Raiders.
Rodgers,
There's no way Davante Adams would go back.
Right. But like Aaron Rodgers needs a franchise that he can sink his vampire teeth into and suck the blood out of that like won't fight back. That's the Raiders.
Right. You're right.
Like I feel like the Giants, well, maybe the Giants. And there's been a lot of steam about like Aaron Rodgers to the Giants staying in New York. That it could. It's also like I'm thinking of a team that's kind of in a weird place where like they don't have a future to compromise. The Giants kind of feel like that, where like they don't have a strong sense of what the next couple years will be. I could see like, let me take you on a journey. The Giants draft Cam Ward. Maybe they trade up with your
to
Titans.
number one, and give the Titans a boatload of picks to get Cam Ward.
Or maybe Cam Ward just falls to them. But either way,
we don't like that one as much. But yeah. Continue.
If you get like Travis Hunter,
I still want the picks and Travis Hunter.
All right. But anyways, yeah. So let's say they find a way to get Cam Ward. They bring in Aaron Rodgers to do like one bridge year while Cam Ward learns the ropes of the NFL. Davante Adams is there, also helping. You know, he plays there for as long as he plays to help Cam Ward put it together. Like that kind of makes sense. I just don't know how Aaron Rodgers would feel about like being a bridge. But he's also like, bro, you're 41. Like you're a bridge. You probably have to now.
I think some of the discourse around Aaron Rodgers' discourse is getting a workout in today's episode. Let me tell you that. But I think some of the conversation around Aaron Rodgers is the ego part of it. I want my guys. I want control of the offense. And I just have this. He
just Greenbow worm-tongued the whole franchise into oblivion. Like, you got to imagine that's going to happen again.
Right. I know. But I think after the failure that was the New York Jets situation, I kind of think you're going to get more of a laid-back Aaron Rodgers that doesn't want to drive the vehicle, that kind of just wants to be a passenger and try to win some games in his final year or two in the NFL. He kind of sees the light at the end of the tunnel now and knows that it's probably unlikely that he's going to win a championship. And I think with just those like expectations, I think it's just going to give him a totally more relaxed vibe. And I know that that's not you can't call that the favorite to happen. Like, I know what I'm saying right now, maybe a hot take, but I guess I just don't see the gung-ho, do what I say, sign Lazard, Randall Cobb, get this offensive coordinator. I just don't see that version of Aaron Rodgers with his next team. I think a more peaceful, again, passenger seat Aaron Rodgers is what I would call it. And if that's the case, if I'm right about that, then a 1-year deal with the Giants to stay in New York where you've already been, get your image back right by mentoring Cam Ward, because you're seen as a jerk who won't like.
I was going to say like that if you want to separate yourself from Favre's legacy once and for all, help a rookie the way he never would.
He can do so much reputation repair by being a passenger seat guy with the Giants and mentoring Cam Ward that I think it would just, and staying where he's at to be comfortable and playing with Adams. And look, the Giants have Andrew Thomas. They have Malik Neighbors. They have Brian Burns. They have Kayvon Thibodeau. They have, Deonte Banks in the back end who could maybe still turn into a player. They have some decent players on that roster. I do think that they're a quarterback away from being a playoff contender, not a Super Bowl contender. So to me, the Giants do make the most sense, but I think you could also make the case for like the Titans. What do the Titans got going on? If the Titans want to take Cam Ward, maybe it's the same thing. And Aaron Rodgers owns a house. Aaron Rodgers owns a house in Nashville. He's talked about no state income taxes. He could take less money because he saves more money that way. Like, I think both of those options could make sense, but New York makes more sense.
Yeah, the people of Tennessee maybe would be more receptive to his theories about.
Maybe. Well, listen. Anyway, we have heard, though, Ian Rappaport from NFL Network put out there that the West Coast, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, you can check out the tweet, but basically the West Coast would make sense. You start thinking about who's on the West Coast, though, Luke. The Rams, that door's shut.
Right. This is a wild thing to say.
Would Davante Adams go back? The Chargers, no, they have Justin Herbert. So who on the West Coast does that leave?
Yeah. Wait, do the Raiders count as the West Coast anymore? Or did Rappaport just forget they aren't in Oakland anymore?
What Vegas is only a couple hours away from Los Angeles.
It's like 5 hours away from the coast.
I would count the Cardinals and Nevada. Nevada is out west for sure. All right.
There's a whole state between them and the coast, though. That's west. It's in the time zone. Okay. But no, it's mountain time zone.
San Francisco is the only other place that makes any sense. And it's like, what? What would that
mean?
Right.
It's like, wait. Because all the reporting out of San Francisco is that they're working to extend Brock Purdy. Like, it feels very like that's gonna happen. But maybe maybe Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams don't care about that. They're like, we would love to play for San Francisco. And maybe that's all it is, because it says nothing about how interested San Francisco would be in that. Maybe they just want it, and San Francisco is going to tell them no because we have a guy that we like, which I guess you go for it. You did just trade Debo away for a 5th-round pick, shed a little bit of money. If you want like the old man crew with Kittle and Davante Adams to come in with Aaron Rodgers throwing to them, because you don't actually feel very good about Brock Purdy and the way he fell apart down the stretch. Like, I would kind of get it, but it doesn't seem like they're going that way. And the only other West Coast team is the Seattle Seahawks. Ooh. And they already kind of committed to Geno, but
right. It just doesn't line up. It's a very confusing tweet from Ian Rappaport that it makes me think very interesting thoughts. But with that being said, a team that I also think could make sense for Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams is the Pittsburgh Steelers. But my guy, Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers, does not want anything to do with it.
The latest thing, though, that I think is interesting is the idea of Aaron Rodgers. And now there's also people coming out and saying, hey, the Steelers might not, like Ian Rappaport, coming out and saying, hey, the Steelers might not go with Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. And then people are throwing out, oh, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be traded. He's told he's not the future in New York. Could he come to Pittsburgh? Brooke, I understand that there's a chance that like negotiations break down here, there, and there. I just think there's no logical reason or way for the Steelers to go with Aaron Rodgers. If Russell Wilson is too old, what does that make Aaron Rodgers? If this move has happened, this would be the, you know what? I don't know what we're doing here anymore. Like that would be the move that I could not get behind at all. 0% will I understand if they go get Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, but like I get that not being a preferred destination, but a 0% with the Steelers, I thought they were a great fit for Matthew Stafford too, Because if they get a little bit of help on the offensive line with their defensive front, Minkah Fitzpatrick in the back end, you add Cooper Kupp, but let's say Davante Adams now to George Pickens, like that's a pretty good team, and they're going to be better than they were with Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, in my opinion, with Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a better player than Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are. So, like, I guess the Steelers, Chris may be totally against it, but I think it makes a lot of sense.
I'm with Chris on that, and I think I just disagree on your evaluation. I think Aaron Rodgers is like giga cooked. I think he's done. I think if he wants to play another year, he can play another year.
He played better the back half of the year.
I think his arms just it's not where, like, he is not going to be the guy you think he is, and I think that Russell Wilson is much closer to who you thought he was when you brought him in. If you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers, you are expecting like the most conservative play ever. I mean, this is like late stage Peyton Manning kind of stuff. Like, sure, he'll be able to dish the ball out, but you are not going to have like zip it over the middle kind of game. You're not going to have an arm strength game. You're not going to have a launch that thing, 55 yards downfield Hail Mary game. A lot of stuff you want from Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he can do anymore. He is going to be a different quarterback. So if you are going to bring him in, you got to bring him in for who he is right now, not who he was, and hoping that he just like reclaims it. A lot of these old quarterbacks have a bad first half of the year and then kind of figure it out in the second half of the year as they recalibrate what they can do. But what that means is taking their medicine and attempting a lot less of the stuff that makes an offense dynamic. I don't think Russell Wilson is quite there yet. Aaron Rodgers is. And I think for Justin Fields, if the Steelers want like somebody that gives the franchise an actual future and they feel like Fields is that, it's kind of apples to oranges to me. Because like that comes with a long-term option, which you just are never going to have with the two old guys. I'm with Chris. I don't think that this is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea for anybody. Retire, Aaron. It's over. Go host Jeopardy. Go get your Fox News job. Like, nobody wants you.
I'm sorry. I just disagree entirely on Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers. And you could compare it to like late stage Peyton Manning. But I would say that the Broncos won a Super Bowl with late-stage Peyton Manning because
in spite of late-stage Peyton Manning.
Aaron Rodgers has always, at every point in his life comparable to Peyton Manning, had a much stronger arm than Peyton Manning, and that continues. That was the problem with Peyton, is he was throwing lame ducks all over the field because his velocity was sapped. Rodgers can still spin it, and
Rodgers has made it further in his career.
Yes, but I do want to look at this from the other side of it, because the Jets have cut Davante Adams here, and they've left Aaron Rodgers. So who is going to be their quarterback? Well, there might be a connection between the Jets and the Steelers here. Because the New York Jets, my friend, are very, very interested in Justin Fields, according to a lot of recent reports. We're hearing from a lot of different sources coming out of the combine that the Jets' number one target at quarterback is Justin Fields, and they're willing to offer him what it takes reasonably to get him to New York. So my question for you is, if you're the Jets, do you think Justin Fields is your best option? And if you're the Steelers and Justin Fields picks the Jets, then what do you do? Because my answer is Aaron Rodgers.
One at a time. Man, I would hate that for Fields. The Jets is such a meat grinder. He got out of one meat grinder in Chicago. He's in a healthy organization. I really want Fields to stay in Pittsburgh and like have the sabbatical that quarterbacks like that need to kind of become the reclamation projects that like Sam Darnold or Geno Smith became. God, just like throwing him into the fire of the Jets. I would hate it for him. But from the Jets' perspective, I would get it as an idea for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think the best idea for the Jets requires Woody Johnson to swallow pride in a way that I don't know that he's capable of, and it's Sam Darnold.
Ooh, well, the problem with that is, in my opinion, that Sam Darnold would not do that. Why would?
I don't think he cares.
Justin Fields leaving the meat grinder to go back to the meat grinder. Why would Sam Darnold leave the meat grinder to go to the meat grinder?
Because it would make him like $30 million more than Justin Fields would.
There's no way. I'm sorry. There's no way Sam Darnold would go back to the New York Jets. No way.
My understanding of Darnold's mentality is mercenary, about the money right now. It is highest bidder, and I think
it's the best contract he'll ever get.
Yeah. So the personal whatever it is about the Jets, or like some people even say he won't go to the Giants because of the New York media. He does not care. My understanding is Sam Darnold personally, way water under the bridge. He doesn't care. Please give me my $40 million. And it might even feel a little good. Like, well, look who came crawling back.
Yeah.
So I don't think he would care very much. That's like just my vibe on where Darnold is at right now. But I don't see Woody Johnson swallowing his pride and coming back with it to Sam freaking Darnold with his tail between his legs, because the Hall of Famer that I traded for and the draft pick second overall that I replaced you with both flamed out spectacularly, and then just like throwing Sam Darnold $40 million and jetting off back to the United Kingdom.
Well, the Jets are in a crazy place right now. It'll be so curious to see what they do. If they do get Justin Fields, though, which I think is their target, but it could just be a situation where the Jets are being used as a leverage play to get back to the Steelers for more money. You know what I mean? Like, no, we really do have options. I'm not just coming back on a hometown discount because you guys brought me in last year. The Jets' next steps after that, though, according to John Butchko from Locked On Jets, are very clear.
So now we can begin to look to the rest of the offseason. The Jets' wide receiver position is likely to see a lot of action this offseason. For me, priority number one is getting Garrett Wilson extended long-term. Garrett Wilson is now through his third NFL season, and the rules of the league state that after you are finished with your third season, you are allowed to sign a long-term contract extension. And for the New York Jets, I think that needs to be priority number one. First of all, because Garrett Wilson has proven himself to be an outstanding player. But second, there are a lot of rumblings that Garrett Wilson maybe isn't happy. Of course, these things can change quickly. A player can go from unhappy to very happy like that. All it takes sometimes is a big money contract extension. And for the Jets, I think it goes beyond Garrett Wilson's production on the field. I think right now this organization's reputation is about as low as an NFL team's reputation can get. And it will not be an easy task to turn that around. It does not happen overnight. It cannot happen in one move, but you need to begin somewhere. And I think the first step is getting a guy like this, a guy who has been a 1,000-yard receiver in a bad situation for 3 years, a guy who there has been rumblings around that he isn't happy. If you can get him to commit to this franchise, that's the first thing you need to do.
Now, I agree with John that from like a public perception standpoint, getting Garrett Wilson locked up puts the Jets at least back in a positive momentum thing with hiring Aaron Glenn and kind of trying to create some more hope. But what happened with George Pickens last year with Justin Fields in the first 6 weeks and then the move to Russell Wilson? It was a total change for George Pickens and his production. So if you're Garrett Wilson and you're saying our best plan right now is to sign Justin Fields, how does that help me? Why would I sign an extension with that being the plan right now? So that's how I would argue.
Talks.
They're Ohio State guys. So maybe Garrett Wilson would be like, yeah, Ohio State. Like I'm saying, but like in his private moments, does any of that matter? Does any of that really matter? I don't know if they played together, but they're both OSU guys. There might have been some overlap there.
I think they were drafted like a year apart from each other, no?
Yeah. So they probably spent some time together. But I guess my point is, like, while it would be a good move in a positive direction, I question whether Garrett Wilson, after going through what he's been through, would be like, hey, you guys signed Justin Fields. Now I'm ready to do an extension. I don't know about that.
I can think of maybe 25 to 30 million reasons why he would do that. Like, money talks. That's the thing. We've seen wide receivers do this lately where they hold out and they look for a trade. And sure.
There's a blueprint.
It's not impossible for him to do that. He's very, like John said, he's very clearly upset, but I think John's right in that there is one way to fix that. And that is to give him the contract that he feels he is worth right now. Like, what makes wide receivers mad is when they don't feel like the team appreciates them. Whether that is targets, whether that's money, however they're measuring that, it's when they feel like they're not appreciated. And so if Garrett Wilson feels like he is not appreciated, there's a really good way to be like, actually, you are. Actions speak louder than words. Pay that man what he wants. If he's mad, it might be more expensive. Well, that sucks to suck. You're the Jets. It's what happens to you. But I think if you can't fix that situation, it's a failure. It's not a decision the Jets are making. It's obvious that what they should do here. There is no world where the decision of letting Garrett Wilson out of the building is the smart move. But if they fail to do so, well, that's a failure. Put it on the list for Joe Douglas. I have no idea how he's still there. But if Garrett Wilson is a little bit more expensive, or like if he does walk, who's the core of the Jets? Like who do you think of as the face of the Jets franchise if it's not Garrett Wilson?
Brees Hall,
Quinnen Williams, like Sauce Gardner, who
Yeah.
they're not even that happy with now after last year because he got some penalties. Like, I don't know. It's they have a lot of pieces that shouldn't be replaced. They have a lot of Quinnen Williamses. They're letting DJ Reed go. That's a bummer. But they've got a lot of players in that Jets, especially on the defense, that they're rightfully happy with. But someone's got to be the core. Who do you build this thing around? Garrett Wilson is a great answer to that question. Don't screw it up. Try not screwing one thing up, Jets.
Olu Fashanu, Elijah Vera Tucker, Brees Hall, bring back Jamie and Sherwood.
There's a roster there.
They're not terrible. I will tell you this. Put some respect on Darren Muji's name. Joe Douglas is fired. It's the Darren Muji show.
Oh, my bad.
Luke, yeah, absolutely. The things that you discuss, you're like, I don't see how he's not. It's because he is, because it was terrible, and you're right about that.
I forgot about that.
Bringing the show full circle. The funny thing about it is, if you went to Garrett Wilson right now and offered what Saquon Barkley just got, he would be offended.
Oh,
It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world that we live in here in the NFL. But so much breaking news all the time this year or this time of year. Make sure that you check out the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL with Tony Wiggins, because I would imagine that after this gets recorded, more breaking news will happen, and you want to stay up to date as best as possible. So, again, afternoon edition, Locked On NFL, Tony Wiggins. That's going to do it for us today, though, here on the Locked On NFL podcast. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, with my co-host, the Brain, Luke Braun. Thanks for tuning in, and as I always tell you, stay safe out there.